Good afternoon. That was quite cool. I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
for us to get to see it either. Like,
That just put me in the perfect mood for this. So yeah.
yeah, I'll send the MP4s to you later, so you can just have them, have it as your playlist when you're running now.
I'll just loop that all day long.
Yes, it's so the funny thing is, hello everyone, good afternoon, welcome to this Sandbox session.
Hello.
Fun fact about that little intro video we've just had is that I've got it for all the videos. I haven't put it on some for a while. Whenever I'm doing anything around the YouTube channel and go on there, there's a video that auto plays for, I think it's for like non-subscribers or something. I like to tell you about the channel, and I just have PTSD about that now, because where I visit the channel, obviously I'm not, like, the channel itself can't subscribe to itself, so you open it up and immediately goes and it's always just that third, shut up, stop playing, before you get your own voice as well, which is equally as lovely.
Yeah, that
how are you,
autoplay
Pete?
thing on I'm good. Yeah. That autoplay thing on like YouTube, on like the YouTube homepage for any given channel can be good, but yeah, it can be a bit overbearing sometimes. I'm with you there.
Yes, I'm always constantly worried about it just being loud and annoying. Anyway, but yeah, so you're well, Peter. You doing all right?
I'm doing well. Yeah. So, I mean, we're in the festive season, as they say here in Britain, as opposed to the holiday season, because nobody understands that. And we just had the London Devs, Admins, and Women in Tech mega meet last night, and I think this is the 7th year running that we've run a pub quiz, and I would say it was the best quiz yet. So yeah, it was fantastic.
I've heard that the very first, was it the first iteration of said pub quiz was like impossible?
Well, apparently everyone has been, because like no matter how hard I try to make it easier, I seem to just only make it more difficult.
So have you got any questions off the top of your head you can remember to quiz us live?
Well, okay, so there was a great.
Make you look stupid on camera.
No. But the best thing is, like, Salesforce handed us the most amazing, like, comedic sort of lever to have with this, which is, if you're in the Salesforce ecosystem, which most viewers are going to be, what is the thing that everyone is talking about right now?
Workflow rules.
Okay, don't be obtuse.
Yeah, Agentforce, I think is probably where we're going with it.
That's where we're going with this. So let me see. I should be able to share my screen, right?
You can do.
Okay, so let's go over here. So when they approached me, gratefully, I'm honored that they've had me do this over and over again and subject them to these quizzes for so many years in a row. And hopefully I shared the right screen there. There we go.
Bingo.
So a month ago, I tweeted this, and the key thing to read in all that text is, last year people were saying it was maybe too easy. So I did that. That's what I wrote.
Nice.
Yes.
And so did you then make it so that Agentforce was the answer to every single question?
Well, I really wanted to, but I do this with a co-quizmaster, Mark Ross, of Salesforce. Also, from the Salesforce ecosystem. He used to do the Wizard Cast with Brian Kwong. And anyway, so he and I do it together. And I did get talked out of it, but what we did was we managed a compromise. And that is in the first section, we did make it every answer was whatever the answer was, or Agentforce. So we sort of, what would you say, kind of teased people to think that maybe actually we would go through with doing every single answer as this or Agentforce. Yeah.
So do people do it in teams, or is it like a solo?
Yeah,
solo phase.
Yeah, it's like traditional British pub quiz style, I would say, except it's on Salesforce. And so I think part of, I've been doing this for 7 years now, and I think part of the reason why it's always tremendously difficult is whatever you're doing today, like that's the thing that you know, and you can just like conjure up, when somebody asks. On the other hand, there's like 50 billion other things that you could possibly know about Salesforce at that moment in time. And if the quizmaster happens to pick that thing that you're working on, then you might know that answer. But the chances are they're not. So yeah, it's always a bit challenging.
There was a it reminds me of a few years ago. In fact, the very first Dream LA, I think it was. There was a live quiz. Do you remember? What's the app
Oh,
where
Kamut? No, Kahoot.
Kahoot? That was it. So it was a
Yeah.
Kahoot quiz, and so there was myself and Alex, whose surname I can't remember, that worked for Design It. You know how that.
Oh, Alex Tennant?
That's the guy. Me
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Alex Tennant, and there was one other person there. But basically, they did this quiz, and like I happened to be walking past. Myself and Alex happened to be middle of conversation, walking past, and got asked to do it because they needed 4 people or 5 people to do it. So we got rounded
Okay.
in, and they'd pitched the quiz at an admin sort of to begin a developer thing, and
Yeah.
not blowing mine and Alex's trumpets, but we were not admin or beginner developers. So basically, we were racing each other to see. It got a little bit ridiculous at one point where we were like, oh no, but yeah, it was quite funny just watching this quiz that had been designed by someone in like a marketing team to kind of be Salesforce questions, just kind of have 2 developers nerd out and destroy it when it was like
Rip it apart. Yeah. Kill it.
yeah yes
Yeah. So I was trying to think like what's one of the so we do the sections. There's one section that's no code questions or admin questions. One section is code questions, and then we had 2 other sections. A section on community history. So, for instance, one of the questions there was, what was the first year that Chatter was used to interact with the attendees at Dreamforce? Which was
2011.
So close. It's 2010. So
Oh
yeah. And there were a bunch of questions like that, like when was the first what was the first community conference that kind of kicked off the whole Dreamin' event thing, which was Midwest Dreaming. And then there was like extra points for the year 2011, and the organizer Eric Dreschfield, so stuff like that for community. And then we put in an Agentforce section, but then we were like, actually nobody knows anything about Agentforce yet, so we'll just talk about basically secret agents. So we had
nice.
a secret agents section as well. So yeah.
Very cool. Have you watched the Glass Onion films? The ones with
Oh.
Daniel Craig in as Benoit Blanc,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I saw a thing that just really randomly, when you mentioned secret agents, I saw a thing the other day where someone said that if they do a third one, they should have the 2 Bonds before him that are still alive be his older brothers doing like deep South accents as well. So it's like it'd be Pierce Brosnan, and I think Pierce Brosnan and Tim Dalton are the only 2 alive still.
Yeah, did
Yeah,
Roger Moore die? He
I think
did,
Roger
didn't
Moore's
he?
passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that would be brilliant, actually,
yeah.
to
I
see
saw
like
it, and
see
yeah,
Daniel Craig, Timothy Dalton, and Pierce Brosnan all like sort of as brothers. That's
yes,
hilarious.
but
Yeah.
but all doing a really poor deep South. I mean, it's not a bad deep South accent, but also what I mean. Just I think it'd be it'd be absolutely
It's a
brilliant.
bit of a pastiche of a Southern accent, isn't it? So yeah.
It is, yeah. It's a bit. I mean, let's be clear. Most accents people are doing for a movie or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only one that's ever been good, I thought, was House.
Oh,
When
Hugh Laurie
yeah,
is
when he apparently when he first did the casting for it, he did it, and they said to him, "Oh, it's great because we thought you were British, so we'd have to get you to put on an accent," and he was just doing it.
nice. It's so funny. Like as a before I moved here, as an American consumer of media, how many times like you'd watch a show and then you'd see that actor interviewed and they're like, wow, like they're actually not American. You just sort of assume. Like the
Yeah,
one that really stood out for me was Idris Elba, when
yeah,
he did The Wire. And yeah, I mean it was such an amazing character. And then you hear him come on and it's like he's got the sort of like, I think he's kind of almost got like a not heavy, but like a little bit of a London accent, right?
Yeah.
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 So it's like that. It's like, well, okay, like, yeah, okay, not you know, not American. So
Have you ever seen the Tom Holland interview about being Spider-Man? So we will get onto
no.
Salesforce in
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. We'll get there. Yeah.
but
There's
so
a
when
tie-in,
he
I'm
got,
sure.
yeah, so when he got well, I've got one. So when he got cast as Spider-Man, obviously he's British and has quite a, I'd say a more like middle class British accent than like
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
London one, but he has an American accent playing Spider-Man because Peter Parker is in New York. Um, so as part of his setup, they sent him to high school in America for a term. Like so, for like sort of 6 to 10 weeks, he was a high school student in America, and like he knew why he was going there. It was to learn what the typical American high school experience is about. And he said he was in this class one day
Mhm.
and sat next to this girl, and she's like, "Oh, so why have you come to high school here? Like, why have you moved here?" And he was like, "Well, funny story. I'm Spider Man." Because he can't keep a secret. Like he's really bad at keeping a secret. Apparently, on all the Avengers films, they don't tell him a damn thing because he's like really, really rubbish at keeping secrets. And yeah, and this girl was like, "Don't be a dick. Like, why are you here?" And he's like, "No, no, I'm Spider Man." And apparently, she like blew him off. And he's like, he said, "I only ended up staying there for like 2 weeks, and this girl hated
Mhm.
me anyway." He said, "I just loved the idea that at some point she'd
Yeah.
have gone and seen the film and been like,
Uh,
wait, what?"
oh, he is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, actually. And I could totally see some like jaded, American wants to think that they're like, seen the world teenager, like,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever. You know?
Yeah. There's a video doing the rounds of an old lady in France meeting. She's walking to a shop and there's a penguin. For some reason, there's this penguin out, and she stops and has this conversation with the penguin. And everyone's like, "Can you imagine if your grandmother came home and was like, oh, I was chatting to this penguin in a car park outside Tesco?" You'd be like, "What? Okay, grandma,
Yeah,
let's go get some help."
yeah, yeah, totally.
Anyway, so the tie-in we're going to go for from
Ooh,
Spider-Man
I love it.
and the Penguin to what we're doing today is not just that Spider-Man obviously lives on the web, just like what we do, which is that's atrocious. That, but obviously
We're
this
we're
is
we're really reaching here.
we're grasping into it. But as we both have said before, this is kind of what we're doing now is part of our Marvel Cinematic Universe arc, our Phase One.
There we go.
Um,
Yeah.
there we go, which Spider-Man was in, and we're not going to do it terribly like DC did with their new kind of various different penguins that have been in all of their releases.
And
So
with
yeah,
that, the audience will be climbing a wall.
yes, I can only apologize for how awful that segue was.
Just like
But so
Spider-Man.
just I quite liked the Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, climbing a
Wow.
wall. That's what I mean. So
Oh, I see. All right. Sorry,
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought you were just like slamming Spider-Man.
No, I was just sneaking in so my favorite Spider-Mans though are the Spider-Verse ones. Those are fantastic.
Yeah. No, there's. I mean, there's a lot of good Spider-Man. Anyway, away from
Anyway, yeah.
Spider-Man.
We gotta
Before
move on. Yeah.
we do have to do some. So, it has been, excuse me, a month since we've done one of these sort of regular
Yeah.
setups because 2 weeks ago we were actually in the same room together, weren't we, Peter?
We were,
In
yeah, with
London,
the amazing Emily Todd talking about
we
SOQL.
were, and we did a fantastic episode on SOQL for admins. So if you haven't watched that, if you go to the YouTube channel, you can watch the catch up there. Thank you again to Emily for coming along and keeping Peter and I on the straight and narrow and helping us with that. Was I taller or shorter in real life than you thought I'd be, Peter? Yeah, you only ever.
Oh, well, I kind of like I'd already met you, so I've seen a
Oh
little
yeah,
bit.
true.
Yeah. So
I just wondered if you'd forgotten, like, yeah, perspective wise.
no, I think you're like you and I are about the same height. You might actually even be slightly taller.
I
I
think
don't
I'm.
know,
I think I'm like, yeah, taller
like
than
a
you.
centimeter. Yeah,
Yeah, but your hair gives you that extra kind of bouffant lift.
that helps. So yeah.
It does. So yeah, so we had the soccer session last week. So a month ago, we started this cinematic arc by going to retrieve some data from an API, and we decided to use the Pexels API. So for those who weren't with us last time, let's just hop over and show you Pexels. So Pexels is one of my favorite websites on the internet. It is free stock imagery and videos. You can search for all sorts here. I would search for Spider-Man, and you can get lots of little ones enjoying being Spider-Man.
I could use a suit like that and actually grow a six-pack. So
yeah, I just like the ability to like hang off a wall.
It's funny, I didn't know about Pexels before we started talking about this arc. Yeah, and I had a talk that I gave at French Touch Streaming last week, and I heavily used Pexels, but I felt a little guilty because you can, this isn't, this is basically crowdsourced pictures, right? So these are people who take photographs and upload them, and and I kept going, because if you download one, they'll be like, hey, help them out, give them a little bit of dosh to, for their trouble. So like I was in a hurry and I just kept on going like, I'm not donating. No, I just need a picture right now. But I felt guilty. And so I think, what I need to do is like, I want to like start pledging to like when I use something from Pexels actually, actually contributing. I think I was super grateful for using it. And despite my haste, I think, yeah. So I'd say, if you're going to use it, help those people out, help the individual content creators that are out there trying to do something that helps us all out.
Definitely. It's a great resource, and people are really, really generous at donating things that you can use on there. So
yeah, there's some great pictures.
And nice Batman videos as well. All sorts of stuff. So we were using the API that Pexels provides, and we started off by doing a little bit of a call out, which is not in here. We started doing a little bit of a call out, which we've removed the code for because obviously we've refactored it to use our class, and our class is quite nice and simple now, actually. So we went through a process where we did the call out in Apex, just writing it. We did it in curl first as well, so we could see what the API request looks like. It's a kind of hard-coded request. We then did it through Apex as some anonymous script, and then we refactored into this code. And we spent, I think, a good
it's like 45
10,
minutes,
15 minutes, an hour.
Like longer trying to sort
like
out the
45
the external,
minutes.
the external what's
credentials.
It called? Yeah, external credentials. I was going to say connection, but yeah.
So what we've got here is when we're making our call out, we are setting the endpoint. Let me just zoom in a bit because that's a bit tiny. That's a bit too much. We set the endpoint to be /v1 curated, blah, 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 blah. And we set our call out endpoint to be callout : Pexels NC. Now, Pexels NC is the name of our name credential. So I'm just going to hop back over to our setup here. And as you can see, I have a name credential called Pexels NC, which has our URL in it. We've enabled it for callouts, which I'm not sure why you'd ever do a name credential that wasn't enabled for callouts. That struck me as an interesting question to get someone who knows what they're on about to tell me at some point. But it is connected to our external credential, which is called Pexels. And our external credential here has our name credential related to it. So that's where it gets the URL from. I've not turned off reaction still, so I'm going to be doing thumbs ups by mistake everywhere. We have a single named principal, which we're going to look at here. And I'm just going to edit. And that has our parameters we use for the API. So that is our authorization parameter and the value of our API token. For those that did watch along last time, Pexels give you a single API token. I have since blurred it out on the recording, and I have recycled it anyway. So you can try and go back and hammer it all you want, but you can't. So no. We also have some access here by creating a permission set that gives the permission set user access to this parameter and this external credential. And then we have an external, a custom header here, where the custom header is authorization and the value is credentials, which is an external credential. the name of the external credential, so pexels, which is there, and then the name of our parameter, which we've called authorization here. The fact I've called this authorization is really, really not great because it's terrible that I've done so. You should give it a proper name, but authorization works.
Like in this instance, probably it would be like API key or something like that, right?
Yeah, like key. Yeah, key's a perfect one on there.
And I think all of that, one thing I want to like call out for a moment, because I remember trying to do exactly this, like just use a authorization header from a API token or API key, using a named credential by itself without the external credential feature. And what I recall is it wasn't well documented. It wasn't straightforward. And like there wasn't really a proper way that was designed into name credentials to do it. It was a bit of a bodge. And so, I was contemplating this afterwards, and I did sort of feel like in the midst of it, because of course neither of us had prepared. We were just like flying by the seat of our pants. We were throwing it together. It felt like we were going back and forth a lot trying to figure it out. But in hindsight, I can definitely see how, especially for this, for this basic type of API authorization, where it's a single, a single connection and not a per user connection. I think it's greatly simplified actually setting up the named credential / external credential process. So,
yeah, I think part of the thing I've noticed as well is we're doing something here that's a little bit different, where we're doing a custom one, right? So if we were doing a very standard kind of, because I think when we started setting this up, one of the options was like AWS.
Oh yeah.
And so if we were doing an AWS one, then it would look so much easier and be much easier for us to work with, and all of those things, because it's AWS and it's a lot more standardized. We're doing something a bit funkier, and so I think that's kind of one of the reasons why we have we had a few more head up.
Yeah, I'm sure that's also like the Salesforce AWS partnership at play there, that Salesforce were like, let's make this really easy for people to connect to AWS.
Definitely. So here we are with this. I'm just going to change these parameters. Peter, choose a number. What number would you like? We had 688.
I want 413.
413. Right, let's hit save. Have I turned off deploy on save? Probably. Settings. I think I turned that off last week. There we go. Deploy on save. Right. So that's up there, and now we're going to execute this, and in the terminal at the bottom, in the output here, we can see what we get back. And we get a URL, and I'm just going to go for the original, which is there. And obviously it's opened up on the other window. Let me just come back here. Ooh, where's that gone? Voila. That's quite a nice Christmassy one as well, isn't it?
Yeah, look at that.
Very, very apt. So that's us retrieving our data. So I think the next steps we're looking at doing, and what we're going to go through today, is taking the JSON we're getting back here, putting it, so making this wireable, and adding a Lightning Web Component to retrieve that data and put a picture on the screen. Sound good?
Sounds like a plan. Let's do it.
Super. So thank you for those who are joining as well. I've just seen a few more people trickle in. So hello. Drop us a comment to let us know where you're watching from. And if you've got any questions, please just post them in the chat as we are going. Questions, comments, jokes, whatever. So let's create a new... Well, should we just update this quickly to return a string? which I think
makes sense.
is going to be our JSON body, and we'll let it debug. And what I'm going to do is just do return resp.getBody.
Do we want to set a few like static string variables for things like the name of the name credential, the URL, those sorts of things? What's your take on that?
1 second, I'm just going to do this because I always forget this. This cashable equals true thing causes me more headaches than like anything else in the world. I always forget it. So sorry, the question was, should we take things like this method string and this callout string here and make them static strings at the top?
Or even on the callout string, I would say even possibly segments, so there's like the base URL, the path, and then there's other things we might want to compose into the URL or encode in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Why don't we do the following? So let's break it out for a start up here. So let's start off with private static string. Oop. No, don't want to use GitHub Copilot. Turn you off. You are turned off. No, it's disabled. Okay, go away. And Einstein.
Is that Einstein? Yeah.
They're both disabled. Cool. Yeah. So we have that. So what I'm doing, private static string. Let's do this as a named credential. That is going to be call out. Bingo. And then I think this would be our. So I have an idea.
Okay.
We do this as a private. Endpoint. And then what I think we could pass in here.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then we can use that from our web component to just get a random page number.
Very cool.
So this would then be named credential plus endpoint plus page number. There we go.
That was kind of what I was thinking. Yep.
Perfect. And if I could spell static properly, that would help.
It's overrated.
Probably, yeah. Spelling. Who needs that? That's why I've got ChatGPT. So I'll make them final as well because we don't want them to change.
Yeah.
That'd be helpful. The method, removing that, I think that I normally leave that as is, as hard coded. Yeah, I'll be honest. Depending upon what I'm doing, I might even leave these hard coded in there. Like if I've got parameters that I'm parameterizing. That's a stupid sentence. If I've got parameters I'm passing in, then I'll build it out. But if it's a fixed endpoint, often I find it easier just to kind of use the string, because I suppose the thing that's flexing normally is the URL. She might change that between dev and prod, but the name credential deals with that.
Yeah, and I can see like in an instance like this where an API is like, I don't think there's any ever, at least in our use case, ever going to be a reason for us to use a different, different like HTTP verb. Or if you did, it might be a different method altogether. In which case, so yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. So, with that, now I've saved that up, and that's good. Let's change this now, and we're going to do the number 654. I'm just going to execute and check this works, and well, hey, 654. Cool. So we are getting what we need back. So let's do our Lightning Web Component. Let's save that. So create Lightning Web Component. And what are we going to call this? Probably image display or
Yeah, sure. Or display image. I don't know, whichever one.
and I can never remember. It is lowercase here, isn't it? When you're creating it,
I
'cause I always
believe so. Yeah. Or camel case when
yeah,
you're
camel
creating
case
the
here.
name of the uh yeah, when you're creating the name of the component file.
Yeah, and then it goes yeah. Cool. All right. So display image. So first thing we need to do is import wire. And then what we're going to do is I probably need to import the method as well. That'll help, won't it?
There you go. Yep.
Import, and what I called it here, get pick. I'm going to get pick from at Salesforce Apex get pex or pick. There we go.
Nice.
So we're then going to do at wire get. Oh, I can never remember the format here. Oh, did it just? Was IntelliSense going to help me there? And I've just cut it down. Wire adapter constructor. Yeah, so it's get pick, and then here it's an object with the values, which I think was image page number. I think it's like that, isn't it?
Yep. I believe so.
And then should we just do math dot? Whoa. Math dot random dot to fixed. Number of digits after the dot to fixed 0. I do actually that times 1,000. Returns a floating point in the range of 0 to 1. So if I do that times 1,000, and then I think if I go to fixed, I think that should work. I think.
That's a good question.
And then what do we want to wire this to? Should we just call it?
I mean, it could just be picture,
Yes. I'm going to do picture body because
Okay.
it's going to be JSON string, isn't it?
Right. Yep. Yeah, good point.
Cool. So let's do that. And then let's say there, we go on here, and I'm just going to output picture body. Cool. That should work there. And then the final thing we need to do is make this visible somewhere. So should we do
Just on the homepage?
yeah, I think that probably makes sense. Target. Come on, how do we do target configs? Use components in LWC targets. This is one of those things that you do like the very first time.
Yeah.
You define a component, then forget about every single time afterwards. Targets, target lightning, app and homepage. Just do those.
And I was thinking about it. Like, it's been a while since I've written an LWC, but like I almost remember because I did so much more visual force, and LWC was like literally the last year or 18 months of like the last time I really did any programming. So I just don't I didn't do it enough to like bed in a lot of the things like the patterns and structures. So I find I do have to, yeah.
Which I think part of it is as well is that I think there's definitely there's to me still this interesting gap in LWC where what I want to do is I want to be able to define an LWC as an app rather than have to use and I think that's one of my weird things where like if I could just have it be like instead of having the app builder or the record page or the home page if I could just define it as an app and then compose in there. The only way of doing that right now is Aura.
Is Aura, yeah. In other words, to have
Yeah.
a URL addressable
Hmm.
endpoint, I guess you would say, that you can stick into your browser that then just brings up only that component. And
Yeah,
that
and that's because
doesn't
that was
exist
what
as of
Visualforce and Aura both had. It was
today.
quite nice in there. And I get kind of, I suppose part of me understands why you can't do that. But even if I could just on a custom, have it as an app that could show on a tab, that'd be cool. Anyway, that's my my small
Why? So
small
you
desire.
said you get why they don't do it. I'm not sure that I do. I mean, like,
Because so Visualforce obviously was creating a HTML page in the background and was a server-side rendered page. With LWC, my understanding is that it needs a container to live in, whereas Aura did not, because Aura you could create your own. Aura effectively was still JavaScript that was rendered by Java, if you see what I mean. It was a Java-based framework, so it was kind of still outputting some JSP stuff in the background, whereas this is just kind of native HTML and components, isn't it? It needs a container around it.
okay, yeah.
I mean, this
I
is me
still don't.
speculating, so
Yeah, like I still don't see why they couldn't. But maybe it's just that they don't want to build the blocking and tackling to actually
yeah.
have that container that lives outside of something that isn't already like a part of the Salesforce platform. So
Yeah,
that kind of
I
makes
mean
sense.
that's also, it's one of the things around like one of the things you and I have discussed before is the open source LWC.dev framework,
Yep. Yep.
and this is one of those things that I really want to build rebuild the CloudBytes website in this, because the CloudBytes TV website, CloudBytes, I can't even spell bytes properly, CloudBytes.tv. So there is a website, and it's not as updated as we want it to be, and it needs to kind of get some stuff going on it. I'd love to rebuild this in LWC, and use it as a really good example to showcase that. But this is, I don't think this has been updated for ages. Like it's a single option at the moment, and it's just not very. It just doesn't feel very production-y.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is a good point to be like, if you went and looked at the open source project, when was the last commit to LWC OSS?
15 hours ago.
Okay. I mean, so they're
So
maintaining
it's yeah, they are maintaining it. I think it's just at the moment, if I'm correct, the only option you have is still a single page app. And yeah, I just don't know if it's just me being daft, but I'm just like, well, how do I actually get this up and running, and what's the setup for it? And
Yeah. I think I, I don't know if any other, like, any customers have actually started from like basically bare metal to stand up an LWC website. Developer.salesforce.com runs on LWC OSS, and I don't remember the full architecture that they use, but my guess is what they are doing is I believe they're using some kind of static, um, like static site framework. I don't remember all the different features that they actually rolled out for that way, but they wrote a whole bunch of custom components. So like, developer.salesforce.com shows that you can, but I know it wasn't straightforward, and there wasn't just like an easy happy path of like stand this thing up and like start writing LWCs. There was a whole lot of background work to make it work.
Yeah, I suppose what I'd really like, and it might just be that there is one in the recipes and I'm just not looking at it. So this is this they're saying is built, and has some recipes on this. So I assume that this is this, but I'd like to see a really cool, hey, here's how you do everything from end to end example. I've said this before, but I feel like over the past, I don't know, maybe 5 to 6 years, some of the developer documentation isn't as thorough and step by step as it was many years back.
Yeah, I mean, I think for let's call
Might
it
just be me.
some of the bits that are maybe a bit further afield from where not like most of the developer work happens for customers. I agree. Like it's not quite as fleshed out.
Yeah. Anyway, so we have our template. So what I was going to do before we got sidetracked was go in here and edit this page. Should I create a new page or should I just edit this home? What do we think?
I say replace it. Forget
Get
the
rid.
dashboard. We just want a nice image when we log into Salesforce, right? That's what every user really wants.
Yep. Let's do it. All right, let's new Lightning page, and we're going to do a home page. It's a voice extension. Oh, for Service Cloud Voice. Sorry. I just see new options on the list. I'm like, I have not seen them before.
Nice.
Never played with Service Cloud Voice. So anyway, we'll call this Pexels Home, image home. And should we just do a single region?
Yeah, sounds good.
Home template, one region. Bingo. And voila. And obviously it's just going to give us object. Let's save this. I'll activate it. I'm going to assign it to Sales App. Okay, and if we refresh this. Ooh. Interesting. Okay, why is it not gone through there? Let's go back to the Sales App and just check. Edit. Won't be there. It'll be so that's the home page there. We've got that. App options. Okay, yeah, these all look good. Let's go back to the. Just make sure that we've got it set up properly. So it's assigned as the app default for that app. I'm just going to assign it as the org default as well, just in case, because I'm lazy.
Yeah. You saved? Yeah.
Yeah. Where am I going wrong here? It's fine. Let's sell a home. If I activate this, but don't make it visible, I wonder if that'll override it a little bit.
That's really weird.
It is very bizarre.
Maybe just drop it on this one to speed things along. Yeah.
It might just be being cached somewhere in the.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Oh, I can't edit this one.
No?
Nope. Can't drag things on. Right. Let's leave that. I haven't made any changes anyway. If I go into the setup and I go, let's just try two things. So debug mode, which we'll probably want on anyway when we're working with Lightning components. I'll stick it on for both of us. So that sometimes helps. Not in this case. I'll tell you what I'm just going to do real quick because we don't have time to mess around, is let's just create a new app real quick and we'll just use that new app and it should be fine. New Lightning app. Oops. That looks fine. Next, and standard navigation, setup, yada, yada, yada. No utility items. We're both system admins. Just move that down. Okay. As soon as, did you see that? As soon as I added the new app and threatened it, it's now working.
Well, there you go.
Good old caching on Salesforce.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's working for us there. What I'm going to do quickly as well is I'm going to do a get. This is terrible practice, but it is going to be JSON dot stringify. Try to remember if it's stringify or body. I think it's stringify.
Well, stringify should
body.
just. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, just so that we can output it and see it on the screen, just to check that it's coming through. So what was it? Debug string. Does that make sense as a? Ooh. Let's try that. And nope, still doing object. Ooh. That's outputting nothing. Always a good start. Can't see it being logged. Oh, here we go. Data undefined, error undefined. So it's not. It is retrieving something though, surely. So what I tend to do in this instance is we do a wired response, and it's error then data, isn't it? I think it's always that way around, which I find perplexing every single time.
That sounds right.
Is it like that, or is it like that? There's the wire to function.
Yeah, I was just looking that up.
Bum, bum, bum. Property or function, wire apex method to a function. Yeah, error data, and it's like that. So it's I've written it wrong. It should be like that. Cool. So if error else what I'm just going to do is
Okay.
It's not. Yeah. So one of the things that I've found interesting. But don't need that. Let's remove that, and we can just use picture data now. One of the things that I've found interesting when working with LWCs, and to be very, very open, still struggle with, is the reactivity.
Mhm.
Because one of the things that I really quite liked about Aura was two-way binding.
All right. Yeah.
And it just felt very responsive, very natural, very like, oh, look, I change it here and it changes here, and I change it here, it changes here. And knowing, I was doing something the other day and just figuring out what was changing when and how to get it to update and pass things around and the timing on it, just I find incredibly difficult sometimes. I was trying to do something where I had some parent-child LWCs,
Mhm.
and so effectively I had something like this. So I had so component A, and in that was a component B, and in that was component C, component C, component C, right?
Okay.
And each of these, so this had a record edit form. This had that's a terrible shortening, isn't it?
It's not the best.
Lightning record
Yeah.
edit form. Yeah. So all of these had Lightning record edit forms in them because I was capturing or updating records. And so if this is the parent and these are the children, I might create, the way of thinking about this is I might create, as an example, an account and then an opportunity and then multiple opportunity line items.
Okay. Yeah. Mhm.
But because of the references, I need to save this one first. And then I need to save this one. And then I need to save these.
Right.
And these can
Okay.
all be saved at the same time, but I need the ID from 1 to save 2, and I need the ID from 2 to save all of 3. And the rendering, the cycle of passing them down did not work in the way I expected it to. So
you mean
passing,
passing down the record ID that was the primary record for component A on down to component B, and then from
yeah,
B to C.
yeah. So this would save, and I'd have the on success handler, and in the on success handler, I would take the record ID that was returned, okay, which was
Right. Mhm.
populated, and I could debug
Mhm.
it, and I would set that on a property, and then that property should be passed into the child component. And when I printed it out, when I actually turned off the saving, I could see it was updating the child component and displaying it. But the problem was is that it would update it, so I would have like line. So I would call, I don't know, a dot save, and then it'd be sort of a dot on success, and it'd be update record ID, and then I'd call b dot save, and in b dot save I'd sort of be firing up to save b, but this record ID hadn't passed down to this component before the save was being called.
Right. Okay.
And it's a combination of timing, and I'm pretty sure it is more likely to be that I've just not figured out the, well, I say that I've not figured out the kind of trackability and reactivity, but it was updating on the component below. It just didn't seem to be doing it before it was calling this.
Right.
And so and there's a genuine and kind of like conundrum I had where I was like, well, what if I pass? So I ended up trying by passing this in here and calling a save method on there, where it would then set the ID and do that. But the problem there is that this ID, when I pass it in, is in this component on, like, it's a hidden field. And again, it's that
Right.
reactivity of, is it squirting into, like,
Yeah. I mean, we talked a lot to the architects of Lightning Web Components when we were on the run up to launching them. And one thing that was definitely sort of let's call it a founding principle of how they wanted to to make this work was very functional in nature in
Mm.
that they, and when I say that, I mean like as in functional programming, where, you know, very much a sort of a purist perspective of not mutating data in place, but rather, you know, treating data as, um, yeah. So like if you're going to change a value, what you want to do is like replace that value, as opposed to sort of a pass by reference anywhere. So
Mm.
like there was a lot of that reasoning. And I think a lot of them doing that had to do with certain ways that it became very difficult to reason about data within Aura, especially where you had a very complex DOM or
Oh yeah.
component tree. So like they were trying to like hem in the possibility of like some data mutation, like just pinging around the DOM, like in 10 different places. Um, and maybe in doing that, like they created some other side effects that perhaps make building a web component a bit more challenging, but reduces the possibilities of runtime uh, performance problems, I guess. So,
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely just Redux. That's the thing. I mean,
oh yeah, hmm.
I get the unidirectional flow for sure, and I get what they're trying to do with the function program. Yeah,
Yeah,
what I was going to say is it's very similar to how Redux was set up for React JS. If you've ever used that,
right. Hmm.
where all data. So let me just see if I can get this picture up. Um,
Well, so while you're doing that, interesting story. The performance lead for Lightning Web Components is out. He's been out doing some talks around. He came to the London Developers Group. He was at
hmm.
DevOps Streaming London, and he's basically started up a business where he's helping Salesforce customers performance tune their UIs. So it's really interesting.
Oh
But
wow.
that was actually one of our questions to bring it back to the trivia from last night, where if you bring up any of your Salesforce pages,
Yep. I mean, this is our empty one, but yeah. So opportunities, yeah.
yeah. So in the upper right hand corner, the page render time where it says EPT and the size,
Yep.
those performance metrics are like that's basically something that the Lightning framework is sort of pushing into. There is a performance API that the browser has that you can use to track time. But EPT is a Salesforce construct, which stands for experience page time.
Interesting.
And you can also pick that up from event monitoring if you want to sort of do it asynchronously and report on it.
Very interesting. So I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of stuff I'd love to do around this.
There's like, yeah, there's layers.
Yeah, but so for
Yeah,
the
here we go.
Redux comment for those that weren't familiar. So Redux, so React JS, which is I think probably now still the most popular framework out there. It's from
I
Facebook
think so.
originally,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
um, one guy whose name I can't remember came up with this thing called Redux to deal with the management of state across a React app. And so the idea is you have your UI, and it listens to a store of data here, which is just a kind of a JSON repository of data. And what you do is when something happens, you dispatch an action. That action then calls what's called a reducer, but it transforms the data and update and effectively replaces that data in the store, and then that updates the UI. And so the kind of concept is that you don't have data going back from the UI directly to the store. It goes in this loop, and again, should make it less likely for you to have things go bang or collapse or any of the problems that we all know can happen with these data flows. But still, um, so anyway, yeah,
Yeah, I was just
this
gonna
was
look
yeah.
up like what the usage stats are on the Stack Overflow developer survey while you do that.
Yeah. So I mean, that was just an interesting conundrum I had dealing with. Here we go. Here's all of our data as well. Dealing with um, just working with um, working with LWC. It's a fantastic framework, and I really enjoy working with it.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
do find that there's just that unidirectional flow, and knowing when something's actually going to be updated, using when you have to use track versus not, and having to, because there's one of the things you have to do sometimes is to spread the data back out just to replace it. And just knowing when to do that. I'm probably not just doing enough of it regularly enough to notice.
Here we
Why
go.
is
40% of respondents to the Stack Overflow developer survey use React.
really?
39.5. Yeah.
That is a lot.
That is the second highest behind Node.js, which is 40.8. So, and that's
But I mean,
yeah.
saying that people are using Node.js is,
But yeah.
I mean, I feel that's kind of a, I don't know.
Well, I guess
Maybe
like
that's just
I would think that's if
assume
you're
that,
like programming in it. So if you're like writing Node packages versus like I imported a Node package to my, like dev lifecycle or whatever. So. Oh,
so
there we go. That's some
we have
JSON.
some data. That's some JSON, people. So this is good. So what we want to do is we want to get. Let me just copy this here, and I'm going to go onto JSON pretty.
Oh, nice.
Whoops. And we'll paste that in there, and we'll load this data up. One of the things I always forget is to like clear this out after I've worked with it.
Oh.
It's only ever in development, but it's always one of those funny things. So here, what we're going to want is we're going to want our photos parameter,
like an array,
which is an array.
Yeah.
We're going to want the first one because we've only got one in there, and then
it
we're
should
going
be
to
an array of one, right? So
and then we want the source key in that, and then we want the original. So it's photos photos 0 source original. So
cool.
Let's update this. Picture data equals data dot photos 0 dot source dot original. And on here, we're going to do an image src. Is image one of the tags that you're allowed to self-close? Yes, it is. Oops. There you go. Perfect. So then if I
very excited.
clear all this out again. So where were we over here?
Oh.
Just caching.
Oh, here we go.
Cannot read property of undefined reading 0.
Ooh.
So that is because it's not loaded in the data yet. So data.photos is not in there.
Oh, interesting.
So let's just check what it's logged out down here.
Now, is that because it's going async and it just hasn't?
So 1 minute. Yeah, photos. That's the first entry, and then it is source. Yeah. Yes, I think it's probably because it's async and hasn't loaded yet. Although saying that, it has got some data there. So
yeah,
this is where the error is down here. So let's just check. Let's just check data.photos. This is a terrible way of debugging this, but that's what I'm going to do real quick.
It's only terrible if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, your console log came back with that.
Yeah.
That's curious.
Wire target. Yeah, it's still saying 0 there. But what's interesting here is that actually, 1 minute, it's not updated itself properly. There we go. If you have a look here, undefined on data.photos. So
is that on the console log call or on the?
Yeah, it's on the console log call.
Oh, okay.
Console log is undefined, and then the promise isn't returning afterwards.
Right.
Let's. Oh, lovely gift. Just check. So we got photos, and then source. So photos should be correct. Let's go back to just data. Interesting. Why is it not returning? What am I doing, silly Pete? It's the same error because it's cached. Okay, so we are getting data here.
Oh,
is it because
not
we're doing this? I know what we're doing wrong.
you're not turning the
I know
JSON into an object, right? So you need to do like JSON.parse or something? No?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. We haven't done that. So for those who are watching along and wondered how we should have known that that was the case, there's two ways. Number one is just by paying attention and remembering that we're returning a string here. That's really kind of the easiest way of doing it, is just not being daft. The second way is it's telling us here because it's outputting it as a string.
There we go.
So if it was an
Or
object,
maybe
it puts it out as an object.
so because recently they added TypeScript support for LWCs. So if we were to implement this LWC in TypeScript, then there should have been a compiler error that would have said, sorry, your Apex was returning string and you're trying to like call an object, right?
Yeah.
So that might have helped too, which is a shout for all those people who are like, yeah, TypeScript way better than JavaScript. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly why.
I haven't really. So I'm going to be very honest and say that I've never really messed around too much with TypeScript.
I haven't either. I just know that like the TypeScript people would be like shouting that.
Oh, the TypeScript people are like very, very strong on TypeScript.
The thing I actually love about JavaScript is the fact that it is loosely typed and you just sort of like screw around with it. And it's like, if it doesn't work, it bites you and then you like go fix it. So
so there's
Ooh, that's a nice one.
Yeah. We're not going to get this again, I don't think. So enjoy it.
Probably not.
We've got a CSP error. So this is the Pexels image. What
is CSP?
So CSP is Content Security Policy image API. So Content Security Policy stops you from getting stuff that you're not meant to. Yeah. There you go. So when it's gone, there's probably more around that if we want to add more on it.
So CSP was kind of like it was one of the things that they were very keen on ensuring was part of actually, did it go back to Aura? Like they turned on CSP in content security policy in Aura, or was that just LWC
as well? I feel like the biggest time I noticed it was when oh wow, look at that.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. That's why people live in the southwest of the US. So
yeah.
It looks like the Grand Canyon, maybe.
It looks like a rather Grand Canyon, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Nearly as good as Cheddar Gorge. Anyway.
But essentially, you want to make sure that if you have a web page that's being served from server A and that there's some content on it that's coming from server B, that you want that content coming from server B and that you aren't experiencing something malicious that's being injected into your web page that's then doing things like ripping through your DOM and finding out sensitive information, et cetera, et cetera. So CSP is a way to do that, where on your server, as your page is being pushed out, or as the HTML, and no, it's actually in the header, isn't it? Yeah, as the header is being pushed out to the browser, the header is going to say you are allowed to render, let's say, images from such and such a URL, right, from this particular domain, or you're not allowed to run JavaScript from, these other domains, so it's a way of ensuring that, because the, the the browser DOM is potentially so open, it's a way of setting some rules on that so that malicious things don't show up and do bad things to your web page. How's that
Yeah,
for an
and
explanation?
that's a great explanation. And it's one of those things that's really, really important. Like, so for Salesforce, obviously, it's important because you might have data from your customers on your page. You don't want, if you were running a script from another website, that other website could scrape that data and send it back, and you don't want that going on.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a really big thing for developers building anything with JavaScript where you're loading in packages from here, there, and everywhere. That you just make sure that it's the code you want to run, and that it's they're not loading other code from other places. Because one of the things that CSP is good at is stopping it kind of hopping back and back. Because it might be that you think you're loading something just from the Node package manager, but if after that it's then actually been compromised, is then making another hop out somewhere else and another hop out somewhere else.
Yeah,
You
this
can get
was
into big issues.
and this was a big animating thing around the security for, when Salesforce went away from Visualforce being a server-side framework to Aura, Lightning Components, and then LWC, was the way that they sandboxed different sources in Visualforce was using iframes, which is clunky and has problems with it. And they wanted to get rid of that for the Lightning Component framework when they first launched it. So there was actually a lot of work done to try and come up with the locker service that initially was the way that they did that, which then has kind of grown into Lightning Web Security. But the real reason behind that is because as a customer, you sort of have 3 developers working on your web page potentially, who none of whom actually are working with each other, because you have the Salesforce developer who wrote that original web page, you have your developer inside of your organization, and then you potentially have that ISV developer for that one component that's coming in doing something special for you. And how do you make sure that none of those things do bad things to each other? Well, there's a lot of work built into the UI framework to ensure that those are all safe things.
Yeah, no, it is a really important thing. I know I was just whinging about LWC a minute ago, but no, it is helpful. And one of the things that the way you get around this is you go to your trusted URLs, and in here you add in an API name and the domain or the URL you want to load from. You can choose what sources you want, so you can have scripts, fonts, frames, images, media for audio and video, and style sheets. You can also allow permissions for the camera and microphone if you want. And you can choose what CSP context. So you can have all of them, which is the default one. You can have Visualforce pages, experience builder sites, or I've just chosen Lightning experience pages because that's what we're using here. And it now renders a lovely image.
I don't think we should do this now, but if somebody's playing around with this, just open up your browser tools, your developer tools, and look for HTTP headers. And for the, I forget if that's on the app. What's the actual URL source that you go to for that?
Secure Origins. That one application.
No, I think on network there should be a primary resource that represents like the root of the page. I've totally. Give that one a try. Headers.
Yeah, one second. Let me just nip up.
Content security policy. There it is. CSP.
Oh yeah, there you go. So it's got all of the different places you can look. So some of these, for example, excuse me, coughing. ArcGIS is, I think, for positioning. So I think if you're using maps or things like that, YouTube for some reason isn't allowed. Netherlands YouTube, Polish YouTube, all sorts of things on here. But I think Pexel should be in here somewhere as well. I cannot spot it. So
that's what you would hope to see happen.
Yeah, Vimeo's on there, Cloudinary's on there. Like, there's a load of Salesforce ones here for like force content users, SFTC static, image rendering, all sorts of things. Oh, a minute, that's style source. Here we go. So impact self. Can we see image source? Font source. Edit that or not? If we can
It must
find
be in there
image
somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's probably. Do you know what would be really clever is if I just copy this to say a text editor, where I had the ability to search.
Where would you have a text editor?
So image. There you go. Images.pexels.com. And that is under the image source.
Very good. Yeah.
Don't need to save that header. There you go. So yeah, that's how you can find it if you want to play around. And yeah, as you refresh the page, you just get some nice different pictures. That's it.
See, now, why wouldn't somebody not want to log into Salesforce and see something like that? Oh, that's cool. He looks kind of, I don't know, sinister.
Peaky Blinder-esque.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you could see him in the Shelby family.
So welcome to the next episode of Sandbox Sessions, which is Peter and I for an hour refreshing, looking at pictures and going, ooh, that's pretty.
All right.
All right. So we've got our image rendering on our component. And so I think we're at a good point, probably, in fact, a good point for us to maybe think of pausing
Yeah, probably so.
this episode. And so let's just cover, kind of recap what we've covered off this episode. So what we've done is, first of all, we start off just going back through our external credentials and our name credentials, how they work, how they're set up. We went into our Apex class here and we did some refactoring so that we were using our name credential and our endpoint in an easier way. We set it up as cacheable. Why did we set it up as cacheable, Peter?
Ooh, actually, I was going to ask that when you did that, and then we moved on. So I do know with the wire service, we do have, so wire service kind of manages the local browser state for us. So if there's some data that's been pulled down from Salesforce, if there is no reason to go and fetch it from the server a second time, I believe the wire service basically will go and get the local copy of that. And if there is some kind of state change, then the wire service somehow magically knows to go back to the server and go and get the latest one. So, yeah.
I think a lot of it's dependent upon the URL as well. So if it's a URL that's changing. The other interesting thing, though, is I've just removed cacheable equals true here because you'd think that this would allow you just to retrieve something. But no, if you don't have cacheable equals true on there, it won't actually work. So you'll get an error. There'll be an error here. Apex methods that are to be cached must be marked as cacheable equals true. You can mark it as cacheable equals false, and it will never cache it. But yeah, if you try and do a wire method or wire call on or enable method, you have to have cacheable equals true or false on there for it to work.
That's interesting. So you can explicitly state false, and then it won't cache it.
Yeah, so I believe so. I'm sure I've done this before. So if I just do false.
But it sort of forces you to state your intention.
State your intentions.
I think is good. I think that's a good design decision, frankly.
False here. Server error. What's the server error?
Oh.
Apex methods. And because it's getting data. I can tell you why this is. So I'm just going to put it back to true for now.
Okay.
Good. This is because we're using it as a wire method. So you notice that it says here, and this is badly worded, in my opinion. Apex methods that to be cached must be marked as true. We are calling this as a wired method here. So it is just retrieving it for us. And if there is a change in one of the parameters that means it get called again, that's when it does the whole, is there a reason to cache it or not?
Right.
If we were calling it imperatively, then the whole cacheable equals true or false thing gets a bit more useful.
Got it. So that's good. And if somebody's curious the difference between that, I'll just call out to the Trailhead Apps GitHub repo, which is where the LWC recipes app is, and there are there's examples of imperative Apex calls just the method with parameters. So there are very clear examples of how to make those work.
This one,
Right at the top
LWC
here.
recipes.
Yeah. So if you go
Yeah, I'll
to
put that in the comments now.
yeah, if you actually really quickly go to Force app. Um,
Oops, sorry, wrong browser. So when we're going full
Force
stop.
no. So back there in the GitHub repo under Force app.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and then go to LWC or sorry, main default LWC. They should be right at the top. So there's like an Apex imperative example, and then another one with parameters.
Yeah. Apex imperative method with params.
So just to give people some contrast as far as what the wire method, and there are some wire examples as well. So
yeah,
take a look at those.
There you go. I've just posted that up on screen for anyone who's wanting to see as well as you go through.
Nice.
Cool. So yes, I think we've kind of got to a good stopping point. So we've got our images loading now, which is great, and very, very handy and helpful for us. So what we're going to do next time then, and next time, when is next time?
Well, we're not going to do it Boxing Day, we've decided, because 2 weeks from today
Yes.
is the 26th of December.
And so Peter and I will be enjoying ourselves with, I assume, yeah, well, I'm going to be seeing, I'm going to be down at my parents for Christmas this year.
Nice.
So seeing
Okay.
them.
Lovely.
And on Boxing Day, I believe, so far, I believe all of my mother's side of the family are coming over, and my brother is bringing my nephew over.
Nice.
So I will be, hiding somewhere from all the noise. No,
Nice.
it'll be lovely to see everyone. What about yourself? Have you got big plans for Christmas?
Not really. I mean, we went and bought ourselves this house that we're in that just has a lot of work to be done on it. So that's actually what's in the cards for me. Anytime I'm taking off, we're going to try and do a couple of little family outings. We're playing it really low key. Kids are a bit older now. So nobody's that worried about having a huge pile of Christmas presents. So we'll get a few things. We'll spend some time together, swing a hammer around the house a bit, and I'm going to try and get out on the mountain bike as often as I can. So that's my Christmas season plan.
Yeah, sounds nice. I mean, it'll be what will happen is, so when we're back, which will be the 9th of 9th of January, what we'll do is, first of all, obviously catch up and see how our respective Christmases were. We can compare to see how much weight we've put on through overindulging. Depends on how many times you manage to get out on the bike and how many times I manage to go for a run.
Yeah, depend greatly on that. That's for sure.
Yeah. What we're then going to do is take what we've done so far, and we'll go and see if there's any improvements we can make or any tidying up we want to do. I don't really think so from here. We'll do some Apex tests, and we can talk about testing our callouts. So I think the next episode, what we're going to do is show you how to test making callouts in Apex, which is a really important step, and not something we've actually covered at all here. And then
that's true.
And then we can talk about how you can circumvent all of that by just making the call directly from the web component. So I imagine...
Does that mean we're going to use the fetch API?
We are going to use the... I don't think it's the fetch... Is it not the fetch package?
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't know.
I always thought of it as the fetch API, but...
Fetch. I think fetch is... Oh, no, you are right. It is the API. So the fetch API. I didn't realize it was a full-blown API. Look at it. So yes, we're going to be using the Fetch API. Mozilla Developer Network says it's an API, so that's an authority that we can trust.
I'm glad that means I don't have to go back and tell Salesforce to fix my Trailhead module about JavaScript, where I call it the Fetch API.
I'm going to write to Mozilla now to get it updated.
There you go.
My one submission to the JavaScript update this year will be rename it from the Fetch API to just Fetch. Thank you.
So it's interesting. I'm excited about this because one of the first LWCs I built was an LWC that would make a fetch call to a UK postcode API, which
Mm.
I think it was a great, to me, it was a great example of like, when do you want to just make a direct call to an API versus like through Salesforce? Because why would you bother Salesforce with getting a UK postcode kind of thing? And then I was
Yeah.
using Wire to then save that back to whatever it was, like contact or account, wherever I was like using it. So yeah, I'm excited. Like Fetch is really cool. It's before that we had to do things like XML HTTP requests
Ajax everywhere.
and
Oh,
Ajax. Oh my god. So yeah, Fetch is a really, really nicely composed way to go and get
yes.
um, an API call.
So yeah, so next time, hopefully, we'll do the first half of the episode testing, and then the second half we will migrate to a fetch API. And I think what we can do is I'll update the that page layout to allow us to have the two components side by side.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
So yeah, so we can
Are we going to
have
write
that.
an LWC jest test for our Lightning Web component as well?
We can do. I have not written many jest tests.
It's been a while as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
I
you know
mean,
how I've written every jest test is I'll go and find some other jest test
just
for
test. Yeah,
LWC and I'll
find
copy
another
it.
test,
That's pretty much how I've always done it. So, and I sort of muddle my way
which
through.
is a very, very fair way of doing it. There is nothing wrong with having a good jest, a jest test based on other tests. So
Yeah.
there isn't a two region homepage style, so we might have to do another component that holds our two components in there.
Yeah, that works.
That works. So yeah, but
Awesome.
that's all for next time. And yeah, we can do some jest testing. Why don't we do, so just as a tentative plan to share with everyone, Apex testing first,
Mhm.
and we can talk about static resource callout mock and HTTP mock. We'll
Okay.
see how far we get through with that. Hopefully, we should be able to get through that fairly comfortably in an hour. And then the second hour, we can write our LWC. And then I think for the testing, we can see how far we get. And if not, do that the episode after. Because as I said, I've never written jest tests really. So it'd be
Yeah.
good to kind of deep dive into that for a session.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. I agree. Let's get the Apex tested, get the second LWC going out, and then it might be interesting to write both tests in one episode, one where we are basically sort of materializing some data from Salesforce, because there's some specific features in the
Mhm.
Salesforce, the Lightning Jest package to sort of mock and simulate that. Because unlike Apex tests, your Jest tests are all running on your local hard drive. Like they're not actually
Mm.
loading them up into like a Salesforce hosted DOM and testing them. There's a kind of virtual DOM that they all run in. Or is it synthetic or virtual? Anyway, it's not
Yeah.
running on Salesforce.
It's not running anywhere really.
Yeah, and then I think I don't know that I've written a jest test for like for a component that only ever makes a fetch call. And so it might be interesting to explore like what's the difference there, like what are there's probably some existing, again, some tools in the jest package to help with
Mm.
just sort of a vanilla fetch call. And we might do some, sounds like that one, so that'll probably end up being late January or like first week of February. We're going to do a bit of maybe we should prep for that one a little, just to have, so we're not
Yeah,
hunting around too badly for that.
we might actually plan that ahead a little bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, well, cool. Sounds good. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Remember to, if you're on YouTube, remember to subscribe to stay up to date with the latest episodes that are not just this, but also the podcast, book reviews, and other learning resources that are on there as well. If you're on LinkedIn, thank you as well for joining. You can head to youtube.com/cloudbytestv if you want to join us and subscribe. I will just quickly bring that up for us here on the stream. Where are we? There we go. So I've just posted the link in there. You please come along and sign up there at the YouTube channel if you'd like to stay up to date with all the content. Thank you so much for watching, Peter. Thank you so much for being here again today.
Yeah, thanks, Paul, and thank you everybody who came out and watched. And for those of you who are watching on demand, we really appreciate you taking a look.
Super. And for those who are watching along at home, have a lovely Christmas and Happy New Year if you celebrate them. And Peter, have a great Christmas and a Happy New Year, man.
Yeah, happy Christmas, everybody, and we'll see you in a month.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.
Bye.